Chapter 25.
An irritable voice called out abruptly, "Draco Malfoy?" Draco had no time to escape, given that the dwarf delivering the message seemed desperate to finish his duty as swiftly as possible, perhaps eager to end his shift and leave the crowded scene behind. "Attention, attention!" the dwarf bellowed, and soon ripples of laughter and shuffling echoed in the great hall as students eagerly awaited the spectacle. In a desperate whisper, Draco pleaded with his friend. "Theo, you've always been my ally. If you ever cared for me, please, use your wand and curse that dwarf to remain silent." Yet alas, the servant had commenced a song, one that involved 2 verses centered on Draco. His hair is pure blonde like the roots of his kin. His eyes are gray, like ink on a sheet. No one truly knows the heart beneath his skin. Into dark arts, he delves deep. Speak ill of him, risk a cut of your tongue. Wish his lips would linger on me. Slytherin's heir we say, but care I do no more. Long to be frozen by thee. The dwarf dramatically finished with an awkward bow, tossing his wings off in frustration as he grumbled about the inadequacy of his wages and departed. Draco anticipated an outburst of laughter, but instead, the hall fell into an uneasy silence, only briefly interrupted by a few stifled chuckles. Perhaps it was difficult to laugh when the content of a valentine also insinuated something more ominous about him. Faced with scrutinizing eyes, Draco decided to confront the issue directly. "Potter," he shouted, standing atop his seat to locate the Gryffindor table. He yelled, "I didn't send you that valentine, you fool. No need for payback. Or was it you, Ron? Trying to sabotage my life?" A small voice screeched near him. Amid the hubbub, Draco noted it, as it crescendoed into a sob.
"I'm sorry, Draco."
"I thought you would enjoy it," cried Pansy Parkinson, before fleeing the great hall in tears. Millie glared at Draco before taking Daphne and Tracy in pursuit. Completely bewildered, Draco called after them. "Someone enlighten her that I'm interested in men. And, by the way, I'm not Slytherin's heir." No viable response remained except to retreat, though naturally on a path divergent from Pansy's. Propelled by seething irritation, Draco ascended the stairs to the Ollery swiftly, 2 at a time, all the while resenting the necessity to concede and apologize to Pansy unless he wanted his housemates to despise him. Dropping the Malfoy stationery and custom hunter green ink hastily atop his preferred writing crate, he furiously penned without second thought. "Dear Father, cease telling your associates I am the heir of Slytherin. You and I both know it's not I who opened the Chamber of Secrets. However, word spread how you imply otherwise, turning my peers in Slytherin against me with parental whispers of your claims. You didn't need to keep me and the other boys confined over Christmas. If your intent was to draw them nearer, know this: I don't require any aid winning them over. Currently, a rift stands impervious between me and these friends you hope I'll regain because they falsely believe I am the heir. I haven't interfered with your plans for the school this year. Believe me, I could've, were it my inclination. Desist from parading my name, or I promise, the so-called damage inflicted on our reputation will be a mere shadow compared to what I'll enact myself when you tell people I'm the heir." Draco Malfoy. The real sting arose when Theo found him at the Ollery and summoned him to see Severus urgently. Severus wasn't found in his usual haunts, his office, or the potions classroom, and eventually, Draco knocked at his chambers. Severus answered, face twisted with fury. "Draco," he hissed, drawing out Draco's name excessively. "Step inside." Initially, Draco assumed his presence was required for the night's chaos, possibly involving the supposed Valentine incident with Potter or the unintentional scene with Pansy. The true purpose of the summons, however, became apparent immediately within Severus's chambers. In a stark contrast to their usual somberness, the dim stone rooms overflowed with sprawling golden roses. "Ah," Draco smirked slyly. "Need a hand disposing of these?" Or perhaps you fancy basking amidst them, as romantic gestures go. They seem quite fine, reminiscent of the golden blooms at Malfoy Manor's garden. Entertaining yourself, are you? Severus growled. Is this how you punish those refusing your companionship? A foolish rhyme for Potter, and now this veiled threat to haunt your godfather privately. He ignored Draco's protestations with a dismissive wave. I recognized it as a prank immediately. Brandishing a posh golden note that accompanied the flowers, Severus passed it to Draco, who suspected he'd recognize the handwriting, otherwise obscured by some spell conveying the elaborate golden script. Dearest Severus, may these roses illuminate your quarters as much as the tapestry gifted for Christmas. My despair arises only from lacking the opportunity to view your enlivened atmosphere, yet soon, I hope to share many evenings within. Dungeons grow cold, and I'd happily offer my presence for warmth. To uncover my identity, join me at the Astronomy Tower by midnight. I'll wait indefinitely, if need be. Should men not draw your favor, please kindly reject me in person to spare my heart irretrievable damage. Yours is the most daunting, yet exquisite visage I've encountered. Despite many vying for my heart, only a match like yours will suffice now. Regards. Your secret admirer. Do you think me gullible enough to accept this note's authenticity? Severus seethed. You mean to say you don't fancy men? Mother always hinted you might be by dash, though it was actually Aunt Bella to remark so. Mentioning mother posed no harm. Indeed, I am, Severus replied tersely, though don't consider that an invitation to burden me with some nauseating, queer exemplification. Nor does it equate to me being led astray by the crazy notion of a stranger captivated by the potion's master. So you're declining to meet this secret admirer tonight? Severus Snape seemed to be on the verge of dismissing familial expectations entirely and considering some rather extreme magic on his godson. I assure you, there is no one sending me secret love letters nor wasting away with unrequited affection for me. I'm well aware of that, he stated firmly. But Severus. Silence now. Severus commanded sharply. You won't utter another word until every last petal is gone from my quarters. Draco gingerly raised his hand as if seeking permission to speak in class. With a tired exhale, Severus acknowledged him. Shall I start making them disappear, Professor? Absolutely not, Severus snapped. These roses could be of use, and this will serve as a lesson for you. You will help me convert them into potions' ingredients. Draco went along, allowing Severus to continue thinking of it as a prank, perhaps from someone else. If Severus was oblivious to Lockhart's sulking at the staff table the next day, or the frequent yawning, well, some people simply refused to acknowledge the obvious. Poor Lockhart almost made Draco regret what was about to happen and leave him mentally impaired. Almost. Especially given the little incident with Draco's liquefied bones. One day later, a letter from his father arrived. It was a day spent apologizing to his fellow Slytherins, assuring Pansy it was a misunderstanding regarding Potter. It also involved enduring Severus's sarcastic comments when Draco mistakenly sought sympathy in his office. As if Severus would give it, after what Draco supposedly did with the roses. It's hardly surprising, Draco, Severus remarked, not bothering to hide a smirk. For a wizard with your talent to receive attention from ladies. And there was Potter's morning response to the enchanted note Draco had sent in the Great Hall. To Draco's reasonable apology, he received a fierce scribbled note that said, I know it was you, you wicked dragon, complete with a crude drawing of a bespectacled boy throttling a silver dragon. Draco could endure a few more baseless accusations, despite their unfairness. If he was to be the scapegoat, so be it. Yet, the Gryffinder's reaction to his father's forthcoming reply worried him more. Dear Draco, while your last message was endearing, you're laboring under a childish misunderstanding. There's no risk of you being named or formally accused as the Chamber of Secrets overseer. The suspicion will soon divert, at least from the authorities' perspective. But among close families, questions will linger about your role. This, however, will earn you respect among your peers, something lacking due to your current reputation at Hogwarts. You know the lore of the chamber, its origins and its purpose, intended to cleanse Hogwarts of the unworthy. You've been told it doesn't exist, a lie even though it's been dormant for centuries. But it has been opened before, half a century ago, well before my time. The culprit then enjoyed creatures and unleashed a massive spider, ultimately causing a student's death. That perpetrator was caught by another and expelled. Professor Dippet, seeking to protect the school's reputation, covered it up with a tale of a freak accident. Yet the beast still lurks, and that expelled student serves as Hogwarts groundskeeper. The individual referring to you as Little Dragon might be someone you know, but his destiny is sealed, and you'll remain untouched. Destroy this letter after reading it, trust my advice, and do not speak of this matter. Lucius Abraxas Malfoy. That's outrageous, Hermione said, flinging down the letter. There's no way Hagrid could do that. Well, could he? Ron added unexpectedly. Hagrid does have, you know, a fondness for unusual creatures. He had Norbert the dragon at Hogwarts. How could we forget Norbert's delightful mother? Draco interjected, then regretted at seeing Potter's pained expression. Hagrid would never do that intentionally, Potter declared, though it lacked Hermione's certainty. There was also Fluffy, Hermione mused, recalling the three-headed dog. Hagrid always said he was tame, but only if approached right. And we can't blindly believe Lucius Malfoy either. Why should we even trust this? Potter interjected energetically. For all we know, Malfoy Sr. wrote this for Draco to show us, as some grand plan to clear his name by blaming someone you'd expect, Hagrid. Yeah, Potter, Draco drawled sarcastically, you've uncovered my father's crafty scheme by pinning the blame on a likely suspect, Hagrid. Ron sighed. Even Draco would come up with a better lie. Ron seemed tired of Harry's incessant accusations against Draco, possibly related to the Valentine's incident.
Boys.
Lucius Malfoy could be truthful, or Dippet may have made a mistake. A different creature could have attacked. How many creatures can this place hide? Ron pondered gloomily. My first thought was a basilisk, Draco interjected, subtly suggesting, but when I mentioned it to Severus, he laughed it off.
Basilisk?
Hermione repeated with interest, though Potter seemed unfocused. We always knew about Hagrid's expulsion, Potter lamented. The attacks halted after he left. Otherwise, he'd still be expelled. Maybe he was framed, Draco suggested, only to feel deflated by Potter's intense gaze. What? That's precisely the kind of remark I would make if I were trying to frame him, declared Draco with conviction. Or perhaps, mused Potter, his voice slow and deliberate, you mention it precisely, because you know we'd think that, and… Do stop, Ron interjected brusquely before continuing in a milder tone. You ran into Hagrid in Knockturn Alley, didn't you? Draco gave a confirming nod. He was picking up some flesh-eating slug repellent, Potter interjected quickly. Speaking from what I know of potions instructors, Potter, Draco sighed with resignation. Trekking over to Knockturn Alley isn't exactly necessary to purchase that. That statement left the Gryffindors in a somber silence. After a considerable pause, Hermione hesitantly asked, Do you think we ought to inquire with Hagrid about everything? That will make for a pleasant visit, said Ron sarcastically. Hello, Hagrid. Could you tell us if you've unleashed anything monstrous and furry inside the castle lately? If Draco's father is pursuing him, he deserves a heads up, Potter argued. Assuming he's truly guilty? Hermione questioned. If he's got nothing to hide, then he's not in any real danger. How touching of you all, Draco groaned, using his expertly honed Severus-inspired eye roll to its fullest extent. As if that's how reality operates. He knew from previous experience that Hagrid would ultimately be exonerated even if accused, yet the diary was destroyed under Severus's watch, and careful observation of Ginny showed nothing suspicious except her infatuation with Potter. So, what if Hagrid was culpable before, but this time it wasn't the basilisk but a spider, and maybe Hagrid really was. You suspect him too, don't you? Hermione said, fixing Draco with a troubled stare. I realize you'd all sooner suspect me, Draco sighed, leaning back with a bleak expression towards the February sunlight. Honestly, I'm baffled by the current events. My suspicion would point towards the diary. It was a wicked object smuggled into the castle. I would think it possible if it weren't Severus informing me it was obliterated. Such an object could possess anyone, me, you, them, even Hagrid. Ginny Weasley, who ended up with it. Want the truth? Yes, it belonged to my father. I saw it encased at the manor, and saw him place it in Girl Weasley's cauldron in Diagon Alley. I wasn't sure until it appeared in the common room, then I panicked. No one bothered to pretend surprise. Draco, Hermione said, you could have just informed us. I don't understand why you didn't. My father, Ron said, his father. He figured my dad would come after his. But Draco, if your father is the type to target a first year. I don't. Draco bit his lip. I know, but I hope to resolve it without destroying my family. Not just my father, it's my mother too. She doesn't deserve the fallout if father takes the blame. Draco, Hermione said gently, placing her hand on his to quiet him. That's all in the past. Thank you for confiding in us, even if it's belated. But if you're convinced the diary is destroyed, we need to find what else could be triggering this. And the letter from your father, depending on what's credible, might be our starting point. I appreciate you sharing it, Potter said cautiously. I won't withhold anything from you again, Draco promised. Even Hermione looked skeptical, and it wasn't the truth either. But perhaps if he'd found the words, it could have been. Slytherin faced Ravenclaw on a day graced with bright sunshine. The Malfoy Invincible banner made its comeback, though Vince partnered with Millie to hold it up instead of Pansy. Draco attempted to resist scanning the stands for Potter, but was unsuccessful. He spent more time focused in his direction than that of the Ravenclaw Seeker before the match began. This was preferable to looking at the Ravenclaw section where Luna Lovegood probably awaited, still making him jump not just at the sight of her, but even similar hair hues. Permanently fraught pursuits even with fleeting self-reflections. On the Quidditch field, his vision was immaculate. This round mirrored his success from before, clinching the snitch just ahead of the Ravenclaw Seeker, a victory attributed to his superior broom. This time seemed easier, not due to skillful growth, but recalling the snitch's previous location, it remained consistent. The absence of the rogue bludger in Gryffindor's game had ironically removed a necessary element of anticipation for Draco. As events unfolded, Draco captured the snitch, while the Ravenclaw barely registered his dive disguised in a sweeping move near the Hufflepuff stand. But Potter's presence was a new variable, having skipped their previous Slytherin-Ravenclaw encounter, a decision that irritated Draco. Perhaps busy assisting Hermione in research back then, but this time, Potter alone graced the audience, tucked away in a shady section of the Hufflepuff stands. He seemed embarrassed to attend and hoped not to be noticed. Draco couldn't possibly overlook him even before the snitch darted right in Potter's direction. Few moments matched seeing Potter leap out of the way as Draco swept in to seize the snitch, enveloped by cheers of his name from Slytherin. It was hard to recall anything happier. Flashing his hand containing the snitch towards Potter, who lay sprawled over the benches, dazed and with askew glasses, Draco indulged in the hollow gesture. Knowing full well it was Potter who triumphed against him in their last authentic match, yet unable to resist showcasing, he hopped off his broom to smirk at Potter. Didn't send that dreadful Valentine, Potter, Draco drawled. Truly. However, if you want, I might give you the snitch. Uncertain why he uttered such nonsense, perhaps overheard by disgruntled Hufflepuffs, it rendered Potter speechless and blushing, thus Draco didn't halt. Grinning, he turned the snitch, pressing a kiss to its side, allowing himself to bask in the spotlight briefly, ignoring Potter's inevitable irritation, his awareness of short-term versus long-term outcomes momentarily clouded by Potter's allure. In a whimsical impulse, Draco lifted his wand, focused on the snitch. The material resembled prior transfiguration experiments with jewelry. Fielding inherent enchantments was routine against his apt Talon wand, reminded of Lockhart's show for Severus and the Manor's gardens. With an effortless air, which he made sure to flaunt, he transformed the snitch into a golden rose, its stem long and each petal finely detailed. Well, if you're adamant you received a Valentine from me, then here you go. Happy Valentine's Day, Potter.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this chapter, please hit the subscribe button and ring the bell to stay updated with more audiobooks. Happy listening!